the Touchdown Alabama Magazine show. Jonathan McMath along with TJ Pazinger here. We were both at the Alabama football game this past Saturday night. Of course, Alabama winning decisively over San Jose State by a score of 48-3. TJ, you were in the press box, probably had a little bit better seat than I did. What did you see from that game? What did you take away from it?
You're right. I was actually fortunate enough to attend the game in the press box thanks to a credential from our wonderful editor-in-chief, Mike Lacey. And I'm no longer a student, so going to the games is really special for me now. I can only go to maybe one or two a year. And I loved it. I had a great time. I had a free buffet along with the other press people. I felt so important. I just sat up there, ate food, and watched Bama roll. And the new stadium expansion looks great. The atmosphere was wonderful. I can only imagine what it's going to be like this weekend.
Well, you know, I think the question going into the game wasn't so much the offense, but it was the special teams and the defense. Talk about the defense a little bit. Who stood out to you? Who impressed you the most?
Well, honestly, without Marcel Darius, the defensive line, I think, played really great. Damian Square stepped in, started at that defensive end position. He rushed the passer, pushed the pocket back a pretty good bit, held the speedy Brandon Rutley to only 54 yards. The secondary also, I thought, was really, really great. Robert Lester got his first career pick. What do you think about that?
I thought Robert Lester played an outstanding game, as well as I thought C.J. Mosley, the true freshman linebacker, coming in. He had 7 tackles, 3 pass breakups on the game. And the cornerbacks, DeQuan Mizzy and Drake Kirkpatrick, I thought they had a really good game as well.
Yeah, DeQuan Mizzy had, I think, 5 tackles, which was second or third on the team. You mentioned C.J. Mosley. He had 7 tackles, 3 pass breakups, which seemed to be on the same drive, I think, and 2 of them could have been pick sixes had he held onto the ball a little bit more. But, you know, that stuff's going to happen. Dante Hightower made his first appearance since the Arkansas game last year. How'd you think that he did?
I thought Dante played a great game, coming off the edge, rushing the passer. He really looked confident back there, calling the plays for the defense. All in all, I'd say the defense, probably on my grading scale, gets an A for the game. Could have been a little bit better. They gave up a couple of big plays early on in the game. But now, if we can, let's talk about your opinion of the special teams. How do you think Cade Foster and Jeremy Shelley, just all the guys looked?
Well, you know, remember last week I said that I thought the special teams was going to be a very worrisome thing for me this season. It still could be, but as far as the first game is concerned, they played wonderfully. Jeremy Shelley kicked the short game and the extra points. Cade Foster had a 41-yard field goal right before halftime that I thought was very impressive. His first big kick in a big game, you know.
And another thing I want to mention about Cade Foster is he did kickoffs, and he kicked, for the most part, 4 or 5 of them into the end zone.
He did, and I don't know if you noticed, but I noticed on one particular kickoff, he came down and made a pretty good hit. This guy's a linebacker-type body for a kicker. You don't see that often. I'm anxious to see his coverage skills this season.
Well, I thought Cade Foster, the whole special teams unit, all in all, did a good job. Now let's talk a little bit, if we can, about the offense. A.J. McCarron got some playing time.
He did. We all assumed that he would, and he got playing time in the second quarter, which I didn't expect for him to get it that early, but he did. He went 9 of 15, had over 100 yards passing, including a spectacular play by Julio Jones that gave him his first career touchdown.
Yeah, it was absolutely beautiful. He really helped A.J. out there. A.J. just lofted it really over the center part of the field, and Julio came up with a one-handed grab, and he caught it with his left hand, which was probably even more impressive since he's right-handed. I thought Greg McElroy looked outstanding in the game. He seemed as confident as ever. 13 of 15, completed 87% of his passes. If we can, TJ, talk some about Eddie Lacy. I think everybody expected Trent Richardson to have a good game, filling in for Mark on his first career start. Talking about Mark Ingram, who is, we'll get to a little bit later, he's still day-to-day for the Penn State game. If we can talk a little bit about Eddie Lacy.
Well, Eddie Lacy from Louisiana, he was one of these guys who came in. People weren't really sure how he was going to do. Then in practice, he starts really kind of turning some heads as the backup to Trent Richardson. And so he comes in this game, has 13 carries for 113 yards, 2 touchdowns, including one that was 37 yards. So he had a big game. I was very, very impressed. And I think the more reps he gets in the game, he did have a costly fumble, but the more reps he gets, the more confident he's going to become, and the better he's going to be as Trent's backup while Mark's gone.
So I think Coach Saban probably all in all happy with what he saw out of his quarterbacks, the running backs. Of course, we talked about Julio having an outstanding game. They really spread the wealth around. Brandon Gibson had a few catches, so did Darius Hanks. Marquise Mays had a nice touchdown pass as well. Nice. So if we can, TJ, the offense really got things rolling. Defense did a good job. Alabama, of course, won the game 48-3. San Jose State taking their first of many losses probably on the season. As you can tell, Mike McIntyre, the coach of San Jose State, really has his work cut out for him. But another coach that's been doing it for quite a long time, really knows what he's doing. That's Joe Paterno. Joe Paterno, comes to town. The Penn State Nittany Lions College game day is going to be there. Your thoughts on the game?
It doesn't get any better than this, in my opinion. Like he said, College game day's coming to town. It's two nationally ranked teams. Joe Pa versus Coach Saban. You got the Penn State Nittany Lions, their traditional white and blue, versus the Alabama Crimson Tide, the crimson and white. This is going to be an amazing game. I'm really looking forward to it. There's lots of big games this year. You got Florida later on in the season, of course the Iron Bowl, but this one is the one everybody has been trying to get tickets to.
Yeah, Penn State coming off of a 44-14 win over Youngstown State. They had a really good game. Their true freshman quarterback, Robert Bolden, impressed me. What did you think about his first performance?
He did great. He went 20 of 29 for 239 yards and a touchdown. I think maybe one interception, maybe 2 touchdowns, but he did great. It is against Youngstown State, the mighty Youngstown State Penguins. I don't want to make fun, but it was against a lesser opponent. We'll see what happens when he marches in to Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, no doubt Robert Bolden going to have his work cut out for him up against that Alabama secondary. And I know you want to talk about that a little bit. What's your key matchup for this game?
My key matchup is the the Penn State secondary against Greg McElroy and the explosive offense from Alabama. The Penn State secondary is pretty experienced. They got Nick Sute at the free safety position, Stephon Morris. They also got Danton Lynn. They're all juniors and seniors. They've had a lot of time to kind of prepare and know what to expect coming into a big game. But I don't think they have ever faced an offense quite like this one with an All-American candidate in Julio Jones. Mark Ingram won't be there, but like we mentioned, Eddie Lacy, who's very capable, and Trent Richardson, who is more than capable, will both be they will test that secondary a pretty good bit, so they got their work cut out for them.
Well, I think my key matchup in this game would probably be the Alabama running backs up against the linebackers of Penn State. Penn State got an outstanding linebacker by the name of Chris Colasanti. I think if Alabama can get the run blocking up front, which they've been able to do these past few years, and they look outstanding against San Jose State doing, if they're able to run the ball and give McElroy time where they can open up that play-action pass, they'll be okay. Before we transition on to some more games, I want to talk to you about the running back from Penn State. Is that a concern with Evan Royster? Can the Alabama defense step up and stop him?
I think so. He had 11 carries for 40 yards against Youngstown State. He's a great running back, He's very experienced. He's played in lots of games at Penn State. But I just think Dante Hightower and the boys up front on that D-line, they're going to suffocate him. I can't see him getting more than 50 yards this Saturday.
Wow, that's a little bit of a bold prediction. We're going to get to our wins and losses prediction segment. Right now, let's go ahead and transition to the Thursday night ESPN primetime game between Auburn and Mississippi State.
My upset pick of the week. I got Mississippi State taking down the Auburn Tigers, which has nothing to do with my hatred for them. I can promise you that. Cameron Newton played great, kind of Jason Campbell like you alluded to the other day. Big, broad shoulders, kind of athletic guy who could run, pass. He could do it all. I'm not going to lie. His game against Arkansas State, I saw the highlights. It was really good. He was impressive. But look at it. It sets up perfectly. You got Thursday night, ESPN, the Bulldogs of Mississippi State, who blew out Memphis, had 567 total yards of offense. They're going to upset Auburn in Starkville. Just wait and see.
Maybe a little bit of a bold prediction there. I think he could go either way, but I'm going to have to go with the Auburn Tigers, mainly because of Cam Newton. I know that their defense gave up 26 points against Arkansas State, but they say the most improvement is made between Game 1 and Game 2, so I'm going to have to give the edge to the Auburn Tigers in a relatively close game, but I think Auburn pulls away late in the fourth quarter. I'm sure we'll be talking about that one later in the week. Now let's go ahead and move on to Saturday's game, and let's talk a bit about Georgia at South Carolina.
Well, Stephen Garcia and the Gamecocks and Aaron Murray, and the Bulldogs, they both blew out their opponents in the first week. However, I think that Aaron Murray takes his Bulldogs to Columbia and pulls out a close one, as Lee Corso would say, by a field goal. So I think it's going to be a tough game either way. I mean, South Carolina looks very impressive this year. I'm actually worried about Alabama visiting them, but I just feel like that the Bulldogs are going to go into South Carolina and beat them very close.
I want to take another note out of the Lee Corso notebook here. Not so fast, my friend. I don't think it's happening. I think Stephen Garcia has improved, and not so much what Stephen Garcia has done, but what that defense did and how impressive they looked against Southern Mississippi. Of course, they've got Alshon Jeffrey there as well, a great tall wideout. I think if Garcia can just manage the game, they have a chance of winning it, and because it's in Columbia, I'm going to go with the Gamecocks. All right, let's transition on to South Florida at Florida, sort of an in-state matchup.
It is. This is an intriguing game. I like it just because it's two Florida teams who never play each other, and Skip Holtz down at South Florida. Florida didn't play so well against Miami of Ohio. The center-to-quarterback exchange was just ugly. There's a lot of problems down there on the offensive side of the ball in Gainesville. But this week, I just don't think it's going to happen. I think Florida makes some corrections on their miscues from this past Saturday and ends up beating South Florida by a respectable margin.
Well, I think you're wrong. I think South Florida is going to go into Gainesville, and I think they're going to beat the Florida Gators. There were just too many problems for Florida in this game this past Saturday. They had 13 misnaps between the center and the quarterback, and I don't think Urban Meyer's going to have enough time to get that problem solved. I think South Florida, with the arm of B.J. Daniels, is going to go in there and win a really close game. Keep in mind, he's also got Marcus Shaw and Demetrius Murray. They both had over 80 yards rushing. They defeated Stony Brook last week. Both these teams coming off wins over lesser opponents, but I think South Florida is going to pull off the upset in Gainesville.
You better believe we're going to be talking about that one next week, too.
Let's go ahead and talk about Oregon now coming in, what many say could be the best team in the Pac-10, playing at Tennessee.
Even without Jeremiah Masoli, they're a really good team. But on the other hand, Tennessee in his first game, or Derek Dooley in his first game for the Vols, they trounced UT Martin 50-0. It was very impressive, even if it was against a lesser opponent like we've stated. It's Tennessee. They didn't have a great year last year with the Lane Kiffin situation. They're getting things turned around. But they don't have the talent this year. Oregon's going to come into ball country. It's going to be close for maybe a quarter or two, and then I think Oregon just runs away with it. They got too many athletes this year.
A huge matchup, Florida State at Oklahoma.
This is a big one, in my opinion, a really big one. Florida State, did they win 59-0?
Yeah, they beat Sanford like a drum.
It was really bad. Beat Bobby Bowden's alma mater. How about that? Isn't that weird? But they're going to go into Norman. Oklahoma barely beat Utah State last week. They're going to go into Norman. And, man, this one's just hard. I think it's going to be close. It could go either way, in my opinion. I think Oklahoma finds a way to get it done, though, this year.
2 times. Not so fast, my friend. Not happening. I think Landry Jones is going to be the difference between he and Christian Ponder, and I'm going to give the advantage to the quarterback, Christian Ponder. DeMarcus Murray, don't get me wrong, he's a great running back, but I think FSU is going to find a way to come out of there and win the game. I'm with you, though. I think it's going to come down to the last possession or two.
Yeah.
Miami plays at Ohio State, and it's a huge game, national title implications riding on it. Your thoughts on this game?
This is a really great game. I'm kind of glad I'm not going to the Penn State game this weekend. That way I can watch all of this one. But Miami's got a great team. They're ranked number 13. They got Ja'Cory Harris. Randy Shannon's a good coach. I like him. They pulled in a couple of really, really great recruiting classes the past few years. Alan Bailey, defensive end, is going to be a first-round draft pick. They're going to go up there in the horseshoe, though, and it's going to be rowdy. This is also a pretty close game, but I think Ohio State at home, they usually win at home. They're going to beat the Hurricanes this weekend.
Yeah, I think Mr. Sweatervest, Jim Tressel, is going to have his team ready to go. I think Ohio State's going to find a way to come out with the victory. So we did agree once again. And now to the big game everyone's been waiting for, Penn State at Alabama.
Man, you just can't say enough about it. I mean, I'm gonna want to watch this right after it's over. Again, it's just such a great game to kind of be a part of and be around. Great atmosphere. I'm sure it's going to be really, really crazy in Bryant-Denny, especially if it was for San Jose State. New expansion's going to look great. Penn State's going to come in here. Robert Bolden had a great first game, like we mentioned. But it's not going to be close after halftime. It's going to be close going into the half. I think Bama runs away with it 38-13.
38-13. I think Alabama just too physical up front. I think they have just a great quarterback, a great offense. I don't see Penn State being able to stop them. I think it's going to be a relatively close game. I think the Alabama secondary is going to struggle in that first half. But after that, I'm going to have to agree. In fact, I'm going to go with Alabama by a score of 38-20. So a little bit closer by a touchdown, but not much. Well, that's going to do it for this week's edition of the Touchdown Alabama Magazine Show. For TJ Pazinger, I'm Jonathan McMath. And we're going to leave you with some sights and sounds now from game day in Tuscaloosa, Alabama.